Hi, I'm Jenny Miller, Senior Operations Underwriting Specialist, and today we're going to go through start to finish how to key a brand new PRF policy. So there's a couple different ways that you can start a temp policy for PRF. One of them is from within the quoter. So I have our new landing page for our rainfall quoter, and I'm just going to click the rainfall index button to open our quoter. So for this example today, we're going to do just a very basic quote. We're not going to go into all of the new things we've added specifically in the quoter for PRF, just because there is a separate video that we have done where Mark Driscoll goes through all of the details specific to PRF quoting, all of the new things that we've added, and all of the additional information that's now available to you within our new quoter. So for this example, we're going to key just a very basic, I'm going to select the grid ID from a dropdown, but we do have a new grid ID lookup tool. This is something else that in the quoting video, Mark will spend quite a bit of time going over and showing you all of the new features we've added into our lookup tool. So now that I have elected a grid ID from the dropdown, you're going to see this new section called Interval Elections. So this part of the screen is all brand new, and there's a couple different options you have to fill in your interval percentages. So we've added some keying tools. If you have an insured that you know wants an even spread across the odd intervals, if you click the odd button, it will pre-fill all of those for you. Same concept with the even button. It pre-fills evenly across your even intervals. And then we've added a new button called the optimizer. If you select the button beside optimizer, it gives you a drop down where you can tweak the information here. And then depending on the information you input here, when you click optimize, the system will go through and determine the percentage of intervals that is best for your policyholder, depending on the optimizer information that you selected and then the history information that correlates with that. So, three different options that can help you key, but also these are completely editable. So, you can also manually key in your interval percentages as well. So, once I have my basic information filled out up top, and then my grid ID selected and my intervals elected, you can see we have 100% accounted for. So, all I need to do is hit save now. And like I said, this is a very basic quote, and I have everything I need to be able to now start a temp policy. So the benefit of this is all of the work that you do in the quoter, you don't have to redo for within the policy. So if everything in the quoter is how you want it to be, click create temp policy and we will pull all of that information in. So this is your temporary application screen that I'm sure you're familiar with. I'm just going to key in some of the basic information, and then I'm going to click Entity Search and pull up an existing entity from within our system. Click Yes. And because that entity already existed in our system, it pulled all of the address and phone number information below. So all I have to do now is tell it the entity type and that the applicant is at least 18 years old. And when I click Apply, it will tell me that this PRF policy has now been created. So I am going to click yes to go ahead and open that temp policy. So now all of that information that we had put into the quoter has been pulled into this temp policy. As you can see, the coverage information is down below, our levels, our productivity factor. So like I said, one way to start a temp policy was from the quoter, but you can also go to MPCI, create temp policy, and create a PRF policy very similar to how you key any other temp policy. You would just have to go through and manually key all of that information in. So if you needed to add a coverage, all you have to do is come down here and click add. So we'll just add a different county to this policy. Okay, I'm going to select the level. It pre-fills the productivity factor, but you can edit that down if you choose. And for a PRF policy, all I have to key on the coverage is just this far left side. So I'm going to hit save. And now I have 2 counties keyed on this policy. So if I have all of my coverage information done that I need, I don't have any SBIs or any additional information to key for that since this is just an individual policy, I'm going to click over now to this interval screen. This screen now is going to be very different than what you are used to. So it used to be on this screen, you would go in and set up units for all of your grids and all of your intervals. Now we have completely changed our mindset. You do not have to go in and set up units any longer. Now we have what we call interval groups. So the system has already set up our first interval group based on the information that we had keyed in the quoter. So you're going to notice that the column headings are much different than they used to be. Like all column headings in EASYwriter Pro, these are editable, so you can move the columns around. They all have filter options so that when you hover over the column header, you can filter down to show different information. So if you have multiple counties on a policy or if you have multiple grids on a policy, you can click the filter button and filter down to see more specific information. With this information below, it is editable. To be able to edit it, you have to click on one of the month listings. So once you click down in any of these listings below, you'll see that this View Edit button becomes accessible. You can also double click on any of these months and you're going to open up an edit screen. So from this screen, you can edit your intervals. You have the same tools that you saw in the quoter with your odd and even options. We don't have the optimizer button within the policy. You're only going to have access to that optimizer tool from within the quoter. So if you want to change any intervals, it's just a double click within a month. Any of the months will allow you to edit all of them, or you can click down here to view edit. And then when you hit save, that change will show. And then if you want to add additional interval groups, you can come down here and click add. And then you just have to elect your coverage from the dropdown. It's going to default your share to 100%, but you can revise that if needed. And then I'm just going to select my grid ID from the dropdown. Once again, we have updated the grid ID locator, so the same tools that are accessible from within the quoter are also accessible from within the policy. And then I'm just going to click odd for this set, and then I'm going to hit save and add so I can set up another interval group. So we'll just do another Lynn County and save. So in a matter of seconds, we have set up 2 different sets of interval groups, and I can hit save. And now we are ready to map our policy. So you have several different options available to you as to how to go about mapping a policy. One of them is if you already have an NAU policy where those fields are mapped, you can copy those fields from that other policy into your new policy. So I'm going to start with that example, and to do that, I need to commit this policy. And then I am going to open up the policy where I want to copy the fields from. So this policy has all of the fields already mapped onto it that I want to copy into my new policy. So the key to be able to copy fields is you cannot endorse the policy. So I've opened the policy and I've clicked directly into EASYmapping. And now that EASYmapping is open, it's going to show the fields that are currently mapped on the policy. So if I want to copy every single field that's on this policy, I can hit Control A and it will select all of them. You can also drag and drop to select as many of the fields that you want to copy. But as soon as you have one policy field selected, then you're going to see this Copy Fields button show up. So as long as you haven't endorsed the policy and you've selected at least one policy field, meaning that field has already been added to this policy, that's where you will see the Copy Fields button. So if you're in a policy and you can't find the copy button, most likely it means that you have either endorsed the policy or that policy has been deferred. So you want to make sure to commit it, open the policy up, and hop right into mapping. So I'm going to click copy and I'm going to key in that brand new temp policy number. This is it. It still shows temp. So I'm going to hit copy fields. All right, so now it's telling me everything that I had selected in this policy has now been copied into my brand new temp policy. So now I'm going to hop back into that new policy. And this time I am going to endorse the policy. Click into mapping. And now you can see that all of those fields that we had copied in are added to this policy. So this is one way that you can map a policy. If you know the work's already been done on one policy, don't recreate the work and do it all over. You can copy those in, but you can also manually add the fields onto your policy. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. So I clicked right here on the quick navigation button, and then I'm going to change the drop down to show Quick Sims fields by FTF. And then I'm just going to key in an FSN and track and hit search. So I did not key a field number in. And with that, it's going to highlight all of the fields that have that FSN and track. So if I come over here and click Field Attributes, it's going to give me a listing of all of those fields. So now all I have to do is tell the system which of these fields I would like to add. So in this example, I am going to deselect the cropland fields and hit add to add these 3 fields to the policy. Hit save. And now I have added 3 fields. It's just a tip that I like to show to search by the FSN and track only. You don't have to put that field number in, so it's a faster way to add multiple fields if you know that there will be multiple added with the same FSN and track. So now you also have the ability to add fields by the CLU layer. So I hit my control spacebar and that toggled back on my CLU boundaries. So control spacebar is one way to do that. You can also toggle those layers on from your layers button. And just to show the difference between all fields and policy fields. So all fields is going to show all of your CLU boundaries. Policy fields takes all those white boundaries away and only shows the fields that you have already added to the policy. So with that CLU boundary toggled back on, I can use my select tool and I can also just physically click on any field that I want to add and then hit that add button. So several different ways that you can go about personally mapping your policies, but we do have an entire mapping department. So if you have any kind of document, a 578 or a prior map book, something that shows the field boundaries, you can send that into our mapping department at mapping@naoucountry.com along with their policy number, and the mapping department will map that policy for you. So that is available to all of our agents and it is available at no cost. So completely up to you is if you want to map your own policies or if you would like to send those to the mapping department for us to do that for you. So now a couple other things I want to show from this mapping screen before we move on. One of them is this button right here that if you hover over says add or edit intervals. And with this green plus sign, This is the equivalent of your interval screen. So from this button, you can affect any of the interval groups that are already added on the policy. You can double click just like we did over here and make any changes that you want. You can also add a completely new interval group. So by clicking Add Interval, you're going to see that same screen we worked through before. So just another way to access your interval information directly from mapping. And once again, that was just the green plus side button. All right, one more button you want to click before we move into the acreage screen, and that's going to be in your hamburger menu, and it's Generate Views. And if you click this Generate Views, you can leave it defaulted to section because all of our rainfall policies are always going to have views by grid ID. But by clicking that Generate Views button, when you click into acreage, you will not get a pop-up that says views have not been generated on this policy. So you can ignore the pop-up when you get it, but it's going to continue to pop up until you go into the hamburger menu and click that Generate Views. And now when you click into acreage, everything will be ready for you to key acres. So now this screen has been updated a little bit as well. The functionality of it is going to work very similar to what you are used to. So the default is going to be on RI acreage, and then you can see we still have our different views. So each view is going to correlate with those interval groups that you have set up. So if I click on the plus sign for this first view, it's going to show the interval percentages that I had previously keyed in, and then I can start keying acres. So one way that you can key acres is directly clicking on the field. It's going to update to show 100% of that field being insured, but you do have the ability to reduce that. So if I click down here to the Fields tab, this is where I can tell the system I actually only want to insure 30 acres of that 36-acre field. So with that, I have reduced my acres. I'm going to change this to 30 so that everything matches up. And then I'm going to move down to my next view. So same concept. You can click on individual fields. You can also drag and drop to select multiple fields all at once. Same thing, if you need to reduce any of the reported acres, you can do so here from the Fields tab. But if I have keyed everything that I want from this view, I can move down to the next one. A couple things. If you have a view that you know they are not going to report any acres, if the interval group is set up, you do have to come in and tell us to update 0 acres in the view, and that will tell us that this view is complete. No acres will be reported. So that is only to be used if the entire view or interval group has not been planted or reported. But I did want to show one more way that you can report your acres. I've showed a couple different ways that you can click on the fields, but you can also come down here to assigned fields, and this is going to show you a list of all of the FTFs on the policy. So any FTF that's already been reported in a different view, it's going to list that out. But for any others that you want to report in this specific, all you have to do is check beside the FTF you want to add. So right now, the reported acre column is grayed out. But a little trick to open that up, if you click on any column header, it makes those columns editable. So now you can come in and update your field reported acres to whatever you wish and click OK. And then all of those acres are pulled in and reported. So because I hit 0 acres earlier, it cleared all those out. So I'll manually key my percentages back in, and then I'm going to match up my totals. And now I have keyed all of my acres in 3 different interval groups. So one more thing on this specifically, acres not yet certified. This is to be used on your active policies. So the policy we're in right now is brand new. It's still a temp policy. The underwriter has not set this policy active yet. So nothing on this policy is being sent to RMA. No policies are sent until they are set active. But if you are on a rollover policy and you would like to key your acres to then generate a nice pre-printed acreage report, you need to tell us that the acres are not yet certified if you're doing that. And that's basically telling the system that I'm keying acres, but I do not have a signed acreage report yet. I'm going to take this document to my insured to get a signature and do not submit this policy to RMA yet. So you can finish keying your acres, generate your acreage report. Once you get that signature, you would come back into the policy, uncheck acres not yet certified, commit your policy like normal, and then that policy would be submitted to RMA overnight. So very important on your active policies, if you're keying in acres without a signed acreage report, to check that acres not yet certified. So now this next part is a little bit of a change in that we've moved the point of reference screen to a different tab at the top. So I'm going to click yes to save all of my changes. And then now, once this opens, the functionality works how it has in the past. So you have multiple ways that you can add points of reference. So you're going to have views on the right-hand side that correlate with the views on the acreage tab. So one option to add a point of reference is to click on your view. It's going to show you the fields in that area, and you can click the point of reference button and simply drop a pin. So that's one way. I'm going to click down to the next view. You can also click this add point right here and manually add a point of reference by keying in the latitude and longitude. So that's another way. And then this add recommended points, if you click this, it's going to go through and do all of the work for you. So for all of your fields that have been reported, it's going to drop a pin for each set of contiguous fields and do all of that work for you. So you can either manually drop one, you can add one by latitude and longitude, or you can use the add recommended points and the system will do that work for you. It is very important that you make sure your points of references are listed on your PRF acreage reports. So if you are keying all of this information into the system to generate your acreage report, as long as these are keyed in, they're going to print on your acreage report and your document will be in compliance. But if you have a hand filled out document, make sure that you are adding those points of reference in. They have to be on the acreage report, which is RMA's requirement and something that they do look for in compliance reviews. But very easy if you are keying in the acres before generating your acreage reports, key those points of reference, and then they will print nice and clean on your acreage report. So I have hit save to save all of my points of reference, and now I have keyed all of my acres, keyed my points of reference. It's going to take me back to the mapping screen. If you look here, it has updated our total reported acres for this entire policy. So now I am going to close out, and then I'm going to commit this policy. I have completely keyed everything I need to for this brand new policy. So now all I want to do is generate a document that will show all of my sales closing required items and my acreage reporting required items. So I hit commit with that new documents button selected. And then my recommendation on PRF policies specifically is to use our renewal packet. So the renewal packet, even though this is a brand new policy, this is a one document, one signature that shows all of your sales closing and all of your acreage reporting on one document. Because this is a temporary policy, you have the ability to unmask tax IDs. So with the renewal packet and unmasked tax IDs, I'm just going to hit preview real quick to look at the document. Okay, And now I have one document that shows me all of my entity information, all of my coverage information, as well as all of my acreage information. So now with one signature, you've done everything you need to set up a brand new PRF policy. So you obviously can still do an application change form. We have line-based acreage reports or map-based acreage reports. Like I said, my recommendation, because the sales closing date and acreage reporting date is the same for PRF, that single document can just save some time. So now a couple more options for this document. Once I have this selected here and all of my options selected, I'm going to select next, and then I'm going to come over here and select print now. So if I want to physically print this document to a printer, it's going to default there. I can hit finish and print it to a printer. If I want a PDF to save onto my computer from this dropdown, I just change it to download, and this is going to download a PDF on my computer. I can also use our EASYsign program. So with this, when I hit finish, it will send a copy to the insured and a copy to you, the agent. And once both you and the insured sign, your underwriter will automatically get a copy of that final signed document. And the good thing about EASYsign is we take care of all of the history log requirements for you. So there's nothing additional that you have to submit. Your underwriter automatically gets a copy of that final document and all of the history log documentation that goes along with it. So just several options that you have available to you. And this was start to finish setting up a PRF policy. From the quoter or setting it up like normal, working through the entire process and generating your different documents at the end. So if you have any questions, as always, reach out to your underwriter, reach out to your marketer. We're all here to help you. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks.